Dragon Emperor Sun Chapter 271 to Chapter 280. Don't worry, young Master Wei, I will definitely get things done. Jordan excitedly opened the door and was about to get out of the car. Wait a minute. Wei Tao stopped Jordan. Young Master Wei, what else is there to order? Jordan asked. I will stay in Horrendal for a few days this time, and let this woman stay with me for a few days. It will save me too much boredom. Wei Tao pointed at Delia and said. Young Master Wei likes it, just use it. Jordan doesn't care, it's just a woman, no big deal. Jordan got out of the car, looked at Delia and said, your chance is here, take good care of young Master Wei, maybe you'll be successful. Delia was stunned for a moment, but before she could react, the two bodyguards directly supported Delia and threw it into the car, then closed the car door and followed Jordan away. Jordan looked at his arm, which was still bandaged, and a gloomy cold light flashed in his eyes. Wei! Young Master Wei, what are you going to do? Delia looked at Wei Tao in the car, a little scared. What are you afraid of? I won't eat you. The woman who can accompany me, Wei Tao, is lucky. As long as you follow me, no one will dare to provoke you in Horrendal. As Wei Tao said that, he rushed towards Delia. Don't want. Delia struggled symbolically for a few times, but soon complied. The body shook violently, and bursts of screams came out. The next morning, after David had breakfast, he called Lin Tianhu and went to the garden restaurant to find Lin Tianhu. He wants Lin Tianhu to take the Xiao Huandan in his hand as soon as possible, and he is also preparing the medicinal materials. David wants to hurry up to accumulate funds and improve his cultivation as soon as possible. He can't wait to go to Suolong Island. He is very curious about what is on Suolong Island and why his biological mother will not let him go. In a room in the restaurant, Lin Tianhu followed David a little ashamedly and said, Mr. Chen, this little Huandan is indeed a good thing, but we say that this thing is very effective, and no one believes it. With my status, people are even more unbelievable, and they all say that I am making a name for myself and deliberately accumulating money, and the price of this small repayment can't be too cheap, which makes people even more suspicious. Lin Tianhu also looked helpless. Who would have thought that he, an underground emperor, would start selling medicine now? Don't sell the Xiao Huandan in your hand now, just give it away, but you can't give it away secretly. You hold a Xiao Huandan press conference. Only people with assets of more than 50 million can participate. When the time comes, people will be selected on the spot. Just send these little Huandan out. David knew that at this time, he needed to build momentum, and he needed to let everyone know that this small return pill was indeed curative. Send it all out? Will it be too wasteful? Lin Tianhu felt a little pity. After all, he knew that these small return pills were all like elixir. He ate one himself, and the result was like returning to the youthful state when he was 20 years old, and his body felt very comfortable. Don't be afraid of waste, as long as you send out these, some people will eat it and it will be effective. If you help us promote it, the market will definitely open up. In addition, you can send someone to continue to purchase medicinal materials according to the list I gave you. David said to Lin Tianhu. Well, I'll spread the news now, and hold this press conference in the lobby of my restaurant at noon. Lin Tianhu nodded and said. Well, I'll stay here in the morning, something is looking for me. David decided to see if the press conference can be held successfully, and also to prevent any unexpected things from happening. Although Xiao Huandan can strengthen the body and prolong life, especially for men's functions, it is not a magic medicine to cure all diseases, so David is here to prevent any special diseases. Xiao Huandan is useless. At that time, he can still make a move, and it can also increase the credibility of everyone in Xiao Huandan. With Lin Tianhu's identity, after the news was spread, many business leaders set foot there. After all, some people also wanted to take the opportunity to make friends with Lin Tianhu. At noon, there were already dozens of people in the hall, each worth more than 50 million, talking to each other one by one, discussing Lin Tianhe Xiaohuandan this time. Master Tiger is a social idiot, why is he pouring out the medicine? I heard that this pill can strengthen the body and prolong life. The most important thing is to make men youthful. It sounds like a magic medicine. Let's take a look at it later. Anyway, I don't quite believe it. Who can see this and prolong life? Who knows whether it works? In my opinion, Lord Tiger should be in a tight spot recently, and wants to use the name of selling medicine to get everyone to pay. Everyone whispered, but not many people believed it. Lin Tianhe didn't make medicine in the first place, how could he suddenly have a magic medicine in his hand, and more people thought that this was Lin Tianhe's way of making money. You can't just use a knife and force everyone to take money. That would be a robbery. Now you say that you have magic medicine in your hand, and then sell it to the rich people at a high price. Who cares what the pill is, maybe it's a sugar pill. Just when everyone was talking, David came out. He actually heard everyone's discussions. Now David's hearing and eyesight are already different from ordinary people. Mr. Chen. When many merchants saw David, they all greeted him politely. After all, at the banquet held by Gu Wenchen, many people had seen David's ability. He was someone who even Feng Sihai had defeated, and both Gu Wenchen and Lin Tianhe were very respectful to him. David nodded slightly, as a greeting. After turning around in the crowd, David felt a sense of proportion. Almost all of these rich businessmen have diseases, and most men have diseases. After all, like these rich people, they will overindulge when they are rich. Now, as they grow older, there will definitely be problems. Now these people have male diseases, which can be said later. After all, the curative effect of this aspect is the fastest and most significant. Visible and tangible. There are people from the provincial capital. I don't know who suddenly shouted, and everyone's eyes were attracted to the past. They all wanted to see, who in the provincial capital was able to get the news. The door of the hall was pushed open, and a man and a woman walked in together. The man and the woman are Wei Tao and Delia. Originally, Wei Tao was letting Delia accompany him for a walk. He heard that Lin Tianhe was holding a press conference for a small repayment of pills, so he came over to watch the excitement. What the H3LL? Young Master Wei, it turns out that young Master Wei is here. Seeing Wei Tao coming, everyone rushed up and greeted Wei Tao. You must know that in front of the Wei family in the provincial capital, these small families in Horrendal are really unbearable. Wei Tao just nodded, with a cold look, he couldn't see the family in this small place like Horrendal at all. But Delia is different. Seeing so many rich and powerful bigwigs come to say hello, Delia's whole body is about to float up, her waist is very straight, and her face is a bit arrogant. David saw that Delia didn't know when he was approaching another, he smiled bitterly and was ready to leave. He really wanted to give himself 2 slaps now. Why didn't he see Delia clearly when he was in college? Fortunately, the two were not married, or else he would have put on his green hat. David. But just when David was about to turn around and leave, Delia found him. When Wei Tao heard the words of David, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he followed Delia's gaze. David stopped and looked at Delia coldly. And Delia is walking towards David with Wei Tao's arm on his back. David, I really didn't expect to meet you here, I almost forgot, you are also a billionaire. Delia looked at David with a playful look, I'll introduce to you, this is young Master Wei, from the Wei family in the provincial capital. Delia deliberately bit the word province capital very hard, for fear that David would not hear the same. You are David, I've admired it for a long time. Wei Tao stretched out his hand to David with hostility in his eyes. David didn't know Wei Tao, and he didn't understand why this guy was hostile to him. Could it be because of Delia? David stretched out his hand and shook hands with Wei Tao. But just when David was about to pull out his hand, he found that Wei Tao was holding onto him tightly, and he had no intention of letting go. Immediately afterwards, a powerful force struck, and David's hands began to deform. There is a smile on Wei Tao's mouth. He has been training in the army for many years, and it is different from other rich second generation. Wei Tao's own strength is not low. David's eyes narrowed slightly, and then the spiritual energy in his dantian rolled, and a terrifying force emanated from David's hand, and Wei Tao's face changed instantly. Wei Tao struggled hard, but he couldn't break free. At this time, Wei Tao's forehead began to sweat. But in front of so many people, if Wei Tao screamed or begged for mercy, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Young Master Wei, I didn't expect you to come, it's really a shame. Lin Tianhu came out at this time and hurriedly greeted him. Taking advantage of this, David gave Wei Tao a contemptuous look after snorting coldly and let him go. Wei Tao's hand trembled slightly, and his blood was gone. After glaring at David, Wei Tao ignored Lin Tianhu, turned his head and walked out. Mr. Chen, this is the younger brother of the Wei family in the provincial capital. If you can't provoke it, try not to provoke it. The Wei family in the provincial capital is not easy to provoke. In addition, Wei Kunan's famous guardian of the calf, if you know that his son has been wronged, he will definitely not let it go. Lin Tianhu whispered to David. It doesn't matter if he doesn't provoke me. If he dares to provoke me, I don't care whether he is the Wei family or not. A sharp light flashed in David's eyes, and he turned back to the back room. Since seeing his biological mother last night, David's temperament has become a bit bloodthirsty, but he has not noticed it yet. It may also have something to do with his eagerness to improve his strength. Now he only hopes to get money, and then buy a lot of precious medicinal materials to help him cultivate. Damn, this kid really has 2 strokes, no wonder that Jordan is afraid of being like this. Looking at his bloodless hands, Wei Tao gritted his teeth and said. Master Wei, are you all right? Delia rubbed her palms for Wei Tao worriedly. This David used to be an idiot, and he didn't know how to do anything at all, but after 3 years in prison, he's actually so powerful. Delia also wondered what David had experienced in prison for the past 3 years. It seems that this kid has suffered a lot in prison, otherwise he won't be able to practice, but no matter how good his skills are, he won't live long. A strong murderous intent flashed in Wei Tao's eyes. Master Wei, what do you mean? Delia asked in confusion. Delia didn't even know what Wei Tao and Jordan discussed last night. Wei Tao stared at Delia coldly. Don't you know what to ask and what not to ask? Master Wei, I was wrong. Delia was startled and hurriedly followed Wei Tao to apologize. The top lobby of the pastoral restaurant. Lin Tianhu put out the little huandans. All of them are only the size of a thumb cap, and they don't look good if they are dark or not. Let's not talk about the efficacy of this small repayment pill, just the appearance, it's not good to look at. Everyone, thank you for coming to join us. I, Lin Tianhu, are very honored. Let me introduce you to this little huandan. This is Master Tiger. Don't introduce it, just say how much it will cost you to sell it. After all, you are very busy. You can say the price and we will pay it. A middle-aged man in his 50s wearing a plaid suit said. Everyone looked at the middle-aged man and couldn't help but cast admiring glances. You must know who dares to talk to Lin Tianhu like this. He clearly knows that Lin Tianhu is making money, but who dares to explain? However, after seeing the middle-aged man, Lin Tianhu was not angry, but said with a smile, Old Zhang, my little huandan specially prepared one for you. Have you ever passed a woman? Lin Tianhu's words made the old Zhang blushed. Lao Zhang and Lin Tianhu had good personal education, so he dared to talk to Lin Tianhu like this, and Lin Tianhu also knew some of his faults. This old Zhang has been overindulgent since he was young, so much so that when he was in his 30s, he was powerless. He had seen many places and spent countless money, but the results were unsatisfactory. Then treat the disease and focus on the business. However, this kind of private disease was exposed by Lin Tianhu in public, and Lao Zhang suddenly felt a little awkward on his face. I don't want to eat your little repayment pills. It's not a good thing to watch it in the dark. If you're short of money, just say hello, why bother? Lao Zhang has no appetite at all when he sees that little Huan Dan. Old Zhang, I don't want any money for my Xiao Huandan. I'm giving it to everyone for free today. Since you don't believe it, I'll let you try it first. Lin Tianhu smiled and walked towards Lao Zhang. Master Tiger, don't make a fuss, I don't want to eat it, it might kill people if it doesn't taste good. Lao Zhang was so frightened that he backed away. I promise you will eat it, you must say yes, don't worry. Lin Tianhu grabbed Lao Zhang with a quick stride, pinched Lao Zhang's mouth, and threw Xiao Huandan into it. Ba ba ba! Lao Zhang vomited desperately, but Xiao Huandan melted in his mouth and was gone. Seeing Lao Zhang like that, everyone burst into laughter. But soon, Lao Zhang felt that his body started to get warmer slowly, and then he felt a heat flow in his body, not to mention how comfortable it was. Immediately afterwards, there was a reaction under Lao Zhang. The surprised Lao Zhang looked at the changes in his body, and the whole person was stunned. You must know that he has not had any response for more than 10 years, and he has tried everything, but it is useless. Everyone seemed to have noticed the changes in Lao Zhang's body, and looked at them in surprise. Master Tiger, do you have a girl here? Hurry up and find one for me. Lao Zhang faced Lin Tianhu with excitement on his face. I'm a regular restaurant here. Where are the things you said? If you want to solve it, go home by yourself. Lin Tianhu shook his head. As soon as Lao Zhang heard this, he hurriedly ran out, turned around and said to Lin Tianhu, Master Hu, keep Xiao Huandan for me. I want as much as I want, and you can pay for it. Looking at Lao Zhang's changes, someone finally became a little bit tempted. Master Tiger, let me try one. I have been suffering from back pain recently. It may be due to rheumatism. I will try to see if it can be cured. Someone followed Lin Tianhu and asked Xiao Huandan to eat it. Lin Tianhu just threw it away, and it was a free gift anyway. After that person ate Xiao Huandan, he also felt a heat flow, followed by a warm waist, and the pain in the waist was gone. This is amazing, my waist doesn't hurt at all. After eating Xiao Huandan, the man suddenly widened his eyes and exclaimed. This time, there was a small commotion, and many people followed Lin Tianhu to ask for a small return pill to eat. However, there are also some who are holding a wait-and-see attitude, wanting to see how these people react when they eat it. More than a dozen small return pills were swept away. As for the dozen or so people who have eaten Xiao Huandan, all of them are full of surprise, because the effect of Xiao Huandan can only be experienced after eating it, and there is no way to describe it. It's amazing, it's a magic medicine. I'm going home too, I can't control it. Wonderful, really wonderful. All those who have eaten Xiao Huandan are amazed, this time no one doubts the efficacy of this Xiao Huandan. Master Tiger, do you have any more? I can pay for one. Someone asked Lin Tianhu. I'm sorry, Xiao Huandan is in limited supply. Today, these dozen are for free experience, but the following is not free, and if you want to buy Xiao Huandan, you still need to wait for 3 days. Lin Tianhu knew the way of hunger marketing, so he said to everyone. It doesn't matter if you wait 3 days, how much is one? I can order one in advance. Someone wants to book in advance. Lin Tianhu stretched out 2 fingers and said, 2 million, not even a single point. 2 million. Many people exclaimed. Even if it is a magic medicine, the price of 2 million is not low. Master Tiger, I ordered 20, and I'll make a deposit right now. A businessman who had just eaten Xiao Huandan said. Businessmen all have a keen sense of smell to capture business opportunities. 2 million for a small repayment pill seems very expensive, but only after eating it will you realize that 2 million is nothing. When it comes to their worth, the most important thing is a healthy body. There are so many wealthy businessmen in the small Horindal. If this is the entire Jiangbei province, how many wealthy businessmen are there in the entire Daxia country? If you can push Xiao Huandan to the whole country, let alone 2 million, even 5 million, it can be swept away for you. Sorry, because the output of Xiao Huandan is too low at present, everyone can only order one. Although Lin Tianhu is not in business, he can also see the guy's intentions. I ordered one. Me too. Seeing this, everyone started to order, which made Lin Tianhu happy. But just when everyone was ordering lively, the door of the hall was suddenly kicked open. The huge sound made everyone stunned. You must know that this is Lin Tianhu's territory, who would dare to come here to make trouble? Soon, 4 people in strong suits rushed in, then divided into 2 rows and stood upright. Immediately after, an old man wearing a Chinese tunic suit with a grey beard walked in with his hands on his back, and beside the old man, he followed the leader of the Along gang, Feng Sihai. When everyone saw that Feng Sihai was here, they immediately understood that Feng Sihai was here to take revenge. Lin Tianhu looked at the old man who walked in, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his brows were tightly wrinkled together. Irrelevant people, get out now. The old man walked into the hall, glanced at everyone, and said lightly. The old man's voice was very soft and he said it casually, but in the ears of everyone was terrified, as if a heavy hammer was hitting their hearts. These people are just rich businessmen, and they don't want to get involved in the fight between the gangs. After the old man spoke, those rich businessmen who came, all ran away without leaving a single one. In the huge hall, only Lin Tianhu faced these people. Lin Tianhu, this is my master yet, what about the Mr. Chen you mentioned? Feng Sihai asked Lin Tianhu with a gloomy face. Lin Tianhu's eyes narrowed slightly, and even facing Master Yat, he was not afraid at all. No need for Mr. Chen, just come at me if you have anything. Ever since he ate Julie pill, Lin Tianhu always wanted to find a chance to test his strength. Attack you? What kind of thing are you? You dare to talk like this in front of my master? If I come at you, do you still need my master to come forward, and I can kill you? Feng Sihai looked disdainful. In his eyes, Lin Tianhu was his defeat. David, during this period of time, you lied to me that there is no one in the Along gang. Now that our gang leader is back, you will die. Liao Fixian also glared at David. Liao Fixian couldn't bear it for a long time. Looking at Liao Fixian, David just smiled coldly and did not speak. You help the Lord to be AF.art. The past is different from today. Today, I will make you all kneel and beg for mercy. Lin Tianhu shouted angrily and punched Feng Sihai with a punch. He had been beaten by Feng Sihai in the past, and Lin Tianhu had long been full of anger. Now that he took the Julie pill, Lin Tianhu's strength had skyrocketed, and he no longer had to be afraid of Feng Sihai. Hey, the defeated generals dare to be mad. Feng Sihai snorted coldly, and immediately separated his legs slightly, without dodging or dodging, planning to use hard qigong to fight Lin Tianhu with a punch. Feng Sihai knew Lin Tianhu's strength very well, so he didn't care at all. Bang! Lin Tianhu's fist smashed into Feng Sihai's abdomen. An overwhelming force rushed towards Feng Sihai. Feng Sihai's body, like a lonely boat, was overturned by a huge wave, and flew out directly. Puff! In midair, Feng Sihai spurted out a mouthful of blood, and then fell heavily to the ground. Feng Sihai's eyes were full of horror and inconceivable. He couldn't believe that Lin Tianhu's strength would increase so fast in just a few days. At this time, Ye Fengchun frowned slightly when he saw Feng Sihai being thrown by a punch, and murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Lin Tianhu looked at his fist and laughed wildly. Feng Sihai, now you know how good I am. If you are not convinced, you can come up and give it a try. Humph, shameless. Ye Fengchun snorted angrily, Aiken, teach him a lesson. Follow your orders. A young man in his 30s stood up in a strong suit. Lin Tianhu saw that it was a young man, and his eyes were full of disdain. Feng Sihai can't do it, let a young man die, let me let you know, in the face of absolute power, your hard Qigong is a joke. Lin Tianhu was extremely arrogant at this time, and he flew Feng Sihai with one punch, which made him already have unlimited self-confidence. At this time, David, who had been watching the situation from behind, shook his head slightly. Lin Tianhu, you are not that person's opponent, step back. David came out from behind. Master, it's him, it's him. Seeing David come out, Feng Sihai's eyes suddenly widened, enduring the severe pain, and followed Ye Fengchun. Ye Fengchun frowned slightly after seeing David, so young. In Ye Fengchun's eyes, Lin Tianhu and the others could become a gentleman, and a person with high martial arts attainments should be someone of his age who has been immersed in martial arts for many years. He did not expect David to be so young. A hint of disappointment flashed in Ye Fengchun's eyes. He still wanted to have a good experience with this Mr. Chen, but after seeing it, it was useless. Feng Sihai saw the disappointment in Ye Fengchun's eyes, and hurriedly explained, Master, don't look at this guy's young age, but he is very strong. Shut up! Ye Fengchun gave Feng Sihai a stern look, I don't think they are strong, but you are slack in practicing and your strength has regressed. From now on, you are not allowed to be my apprentice, I can't afford to lose this person. Ye Fengchun can't believe how strong a young man in his early 20s can be. It must be that Feng Sihai's strength has regressed. Otherwise, how could he be beaten by Lin Tianhu with one punch? Feng Sihai didn't dare to speak any more. He spent hundreds of millions to worship Ye Fengchun, but he was only a disciple outside the door. He was expelled when he said that he was expelled. It's not as good as the 4 young people in front of him. These 4 people are at least Ye Fengchun's close disciple. Mr. Chen, I knocked Feng Sihai flying with one punch, how could he not be this guy's opponent? Lin Tianhu didn't believe that he couldn't beat the young man in front of him. If you don't believe it, you can try it. David said with a faint smile. It is not necessarily a bad thing to let Lin Tianhu suffer a little, otherwise this Lin Tianhu has taken the cohesion pill, and he really thinks that he is invincible in the world, and he will suffer a big loss sooner or later. Okay, Mr. Chen, take a look. After Lin Tianhu finished speaking, he rushed up and smashed towards the city with one punch. Lin Tianhu's punch, the strong wind howled, has the strength of 1,000 jinns. If this is hit, it will not turn people into meat pie. But Aiken dodged Lin Tianhu's blow in an instant and appeared on Lin Tianhu's side. Lin Tianhu's expression changed, he hurriedly turned around, and clenched his fists again. Aiken sneered and kicked out after raising his foot, directly hitting Lin Tianhu's abdomen. Lin Tianhu was suddenly hit hard, and his body involuntarily stepped back, with a look of horror in his eyes. And that Aiken didn't seem to want to stop, while Lin Tianhu was retreating, Aiken bullied him and punched Lin Tianhu's sect. Lin Tianhu's body was retreating uncontrollably. Seeing Aiken attacking, Lin Tianhu wanted to block, but it was too late. At this moment, David's expression turned cold, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. It's enough to decide the winner and loser, but the opponent actually wanted Lin Tianhu's life, or wanted Lin Tianhu's life in front of his face, how could he agree? Swoosh! I saw David flick his fingers, and a button on David's clothes was like a bullet, and it shot towards the city. Hearing the sound of the air breaking in his ears, Aiken's heart was shocked, and he hurriedly ducked back. Although he dodged the attack, it also allowed Lin Tianhu to escape his attack range. Boy, you dare to sneak attack with an arrow! Aiken was furious, and a stride rushed towards David. Tiny! A murderous look flashed in David's eyes, and he punched Aiken's belly with a single punch. Bang! After a muffled sound, Aiken only felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, and then his throat became sweet, and a mouthful of blood gushed out, and the blood was actually mixed with a lot of internal organs. Akin's eyes were full of horror. He pointed hard at David, and wanted to say something, but his mouth was full of blood, but he couldn't say a word. Pfft! Akin's body fell down, and his eyes instantly lost their luster. Looking at the scene in front of him, Lin Tianhe couldn't help swallowing, and stood behind David with an embarrassed look. The arrogant look just now disappeared. Akin! When Ye Fengchun saw that his disciple was dead, he immediately rushed up with grief and indignation. If you dare to kill my disciple, I will smash your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Ye Fengchun looked at David with murderous intent, gritted his teeth. Do you only allow your disciples to kill my people, but not allow me to kill your disciples? Don't be too domineering. David smiled coldly, not caring about Ye Fengchun's threat. Boy, you can train to the peak of internal strength at a young age, and you should be qualified to be mad, but when the sky is crazy, there will be rain, and when people are crazy, there will be disasters. If you can join my sect, today you kill my disciple, I will. Bah, what are you? Let me bow down to your door, are you worthy? Before Ye Fengchun finished speaking, David pouted with disdain. Ye Fengchun was stunned, knowing how many people wanted to worship him, and some even spent hundreds of millions of dollars, but they might not make him nod and agree, but David in front of him was so disdainful. Boy, I'll give you a chance if you don't want it, that's your own death. Ye Fengchun's face became gloomy, kill him for me. The remaining 3 disciples immediately stepped forward and surrounded David. When Lin Tianhe saw this, he hurriedly hid away. It was not that Lin Tianhe was afraid of death. Looking at the 3 people around, David's face was expressionless, and he didn't pay any attention to these people. If you plan to die a few more disciples, then I will fulfill you. After David finished speaking, he suddenly slapped forward with a palm. It seemed like an understatement, but it contained great power, and a wave of spiritual power spewed out from his danshan. Bang! There was a layer of ripples in the air, as if a pebble was suddenly thrown on the calm lake. The eyes of Ye Fengchun's 3 disciples showed panic, but before they could say a word, they all flew out in an instant. This time, the 3 of them didn't even struggle, and they didn't move after they fell to the ground. This! Ye Fengchun's face changed, and he was dumbfounded. And that Feng Sihai hid aside, trembling all over, he began to regretted that he came to David to take revenge. Is this the peak of inner strength you're talking about? David looked at Ye Fengchun playfully and asked. Ye Fengchun looked embarrassed at this time, and his heart began to tremble. He never imagined that David was so young and his strength could reach the level of a Grand Master. He miscalculated. You are indeed very strong. I'm the one who killed me today, but if you kill my disciple, I won't just let it go. After Ye Fengchun finished speaking, he got up and walked out, even ignoring the body of his own disciple. Seeing this, Feng Sihai also hurriedly followed behind Ye Fengchun. Did I say you could go? David's icy voice came from behind, causing Ye Fengchun and Feng Sihai to stop at once. Do you still want to kill me? Ye Fengchun looked at David in disbelief and asked. What? Can't you kill? If I'm not as skilled today, will you let me go? The corner of David's mouth slightly raised. Boy, I'm from the Shaman Pavilion. Although I have left the Shaman Pavilion to establish my own business, if you kill me, how can my senior brother spare you? You will definitely be chased by the Shaman Pavilion. Kill. Ye Fengchun also reported his home, hoping to make David let him go. I don't know what Shaman Pavilion is. You talk so much nonsense, don't you want to save your life? Now kneel down and kowtow to me, I can spare you. David's eyes showed disdain. Boy, you are too deceiving. Ye Fengchun was furious, how could someone kneel down with their identities? Ye Fengchun, who was in a rage, shot at David, and the first shot was a killing move, and every punch had the sound of breaking the air. Bang bang bang! David stood still and let Ye Fengchun hit him. After 3 punches, Ye Fengchun felt that his arms were numb, and he couldn't make a fist with both hands, but when he looked at David again, he looked at him with a sneering expression as if nothing was wrong. You can also harden Qigong. Ye Fengchun's eyes were full of surprise. Hard Qigong is a ball. David sneered, and then punched it out. Seeing this, Ye Fengchun hurriedly steadied his horse and shouted, 1,000 jins, an iron cloth shirt. Ye Fengchun's face turned red, and he exerted his skills to the extreme. Bang! After a thunderous sound, Ye Fengchun's body didn't move. Seeing this, Feng Sihai immediately burst into joy. As long as Ye Fengchun is fine, then he can leave safely. But before the smile on Feng Sihai's face disappeared, he saw a trace of blood flow from the corner of Ye Fengchun's mouth, and then fell to the ground with a thud, motionless and silent. Feng Sihai was killed. The smile on his face gradually solidified, and his eyes were full of horror. Mr. Chen, spare your life, Mr. Chen, spare your life. Feng Sihai knelt down with a thud. I beg Mr. Chen to spare my life. I am willing to give everything under my name to Mr. Chen, and leave Horrendal and never show up. Feng Sihai was trembling all over, scared to death. At this time, he felt like an ant and could be run over to death at any time. And that Liao Feixiang was slumped on the ground at this time, the whole person was stupid. He swallowed his anger, always thought that the helper Feng Sihai had found help, so he didn't need to be afraid of David, but he didn't expect such a result. Originally, David wanted to get rid of Feng Sihai together, but after hearing what Feng Sihai said, David's eyes lit up. He was in need of money, and there must be a lot of property under Feng Sihai's name. In that case, I will spare your life and get out of Horrendal. David waved his hand. Feng Sihai hurriedly kowtowed and ran out as if in the presence of amnesty. Lin Tianhu, except for Feng Sihai, in the future he will have the property in his name and the gang, you should take over. David said to Lin Tianhu. Oh! Lin Tianhu replied weakly. It can be seen that Lin Tianhu has been hit a lot. He originally thought that a cohesive pill would be invincible, but he never wanted to be cleaned up by a young man. Seeing Lin Tianhu like that, David patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, don't worry about it, make good money, and I will refine a more powerful medicinal pill for you in the future, so that you will be invincible. Really? Lin Tianhu was overjoyed. Of course it's true, I can still lie to you, just follow me. Our top priority is to make a lot of money as soon as possible, and then go to Yunchange to buy a batch of precious medicinal materials. David nodded and said. It's hard to say, we can just sell small repayment pills. If we order 20 of them today, that's 40 million. Lin Tianhu said excitedly. David actually saw it from behind, but his face was not as excited as Lin Tianhu. The price of 2 million for a small repayment pill is not low, but it is far from enough. The money David needs is billions, or even tens of billions. By selling small repayment pills, he wants to accumulate this wealth. Is also difficult. Besides, Horrendal is just a small town. After all, there are very few rich people. In the end, Xiaohuandan will definitely be unsaleable. If you want to make big money, you must continue to promote Xiaohuandan to the outside world. Palace Master, are you not satisfied? Lin Tianhu was not very happy to see David, so he asked strangely. Horrendal is a small city after all. If we want to make a lot of money, we have to push Xiaohuandan out. David said lightly. When Lin Tianhu heard this, he was a little confused. Palace Master, I'm not very good at doing business either, and this external promotion of Xiaohuandan requires professional operation. Lin Tianhu put it bluntly, he is just a big gangster. It is okay to open a restaurant, bar, etc. If he is allowed to run a business, it will be a little embarrassing. David frowned slightly. He also knew that it would be difficult to promote Xiaohuandan, and if he wanted to promote it on a large scale, it would be useless to use today's methods. By the way, the Sua family is the richest man in Horrendal, and Mr. Sua is a professional businessman. Why don't you talk to Mr. Su? Lin Tianhu's eyes suddenly lit up. Hearing Lin Tianhu mentioning Reuben, David suddenly realized that he really forgot his future father-in-law. You should continue to be in charge of Horrendal's small repayment of pills. In addition, the herbal medicine should be prepared as soon as possible. I will go to Sue's house to see. After David finished speaking, he went straight to Sue's house. In the Sua family villa, Reuben is practicing Tai Chi in the yard. The business has achieved his level, and many things are done by professional people, and Reuben does not need to personally ask. Sonia was feeding the fish on the edge of the fish pond, a little absent-minded. Sonia, have you been absent-minded since you haven't seen David for 2 days? Seeing Sonia's appearance, Reuben smiled slightly. Dad, what are you talking about? I don't want to see him. Sonia retorted, but after speaking, she still muttered, this damn David, if I don't go to him, he won't go to me even once. Reuben laughed and didn't speak. His daughter Emma Ruofu and Sonia thought, Reuben knew all about it. Just then, David walked in. After seeing David, Sonia looked happy and hurriedly greeted him, David, are you here to find me? Looking at Sonia running over, David shook his head, I'm asking my uncle to discuss something. When Sonia heard this, her face suddenly became ugly, and she glared at David fiercely. David smiled, I'm just kidding with you, of course I'm looking for you. Sonia slapped David on the shoulder hard, who cares about you looking for? After Sonia finished speaking, she ran away. Ha ha ha, David, come and sit. Reuben laughed and waved at David. David and Reuben sat in the pavilion and told Reuben about Xiao Huandan. Reuben agreed without hesitation, and ordered his subordinates to set up a special promotion department. After all, David will be the uncle of his own family in the future. The uncle has something to ask for. He, the old husband, will help him no matter what. David and Reuben chatted until noon. Originally, Reuben wanted David to eat before leaving, but David was in a hurry to go back to refining Xiao Huandan, so he did not stay. Die David, I ignore you. After waiting for David to finish talking, Sonia, who was talking with her, shouted angrily when she saw that David had left. For 3 days in a row, David did not go out, either cultivating or refining Xiao Huandan. Lin Tianhu would send the medicinal materials to David regularly. Fortunately, the medicinal materials needed by Xiao Huandan were ordinary, but even so, the medicinal materials in the whole Horrendal they were almost sold out by Lin Tianhu, and they have to go to other cities to purchase. Jordan, can you fucking do things? It's been 3 days, and there's no movement at all. Sitting on the Rolls-Royce, Wei Tao put his arms around Delia and the phone in the other, roaring at Jordan. It's been 3 days, and Jordan has tied Sonia, and there is still no movement. Jordan also looked embarrassed at this time, and cried in the mobile phone, Wei Gongzi, I can't help it, then Sonia doesn't go out at all these days, and has never been able to find a chance, so she can't run to her house. Tie her up. Damn, I don't care, won't you find a way to let her go out? If you can't do it, you won't be needed, you're a waste. Wei Tao was angry, he couldn't do such a trivial matter, he felt how much he looked down on Jordan. Don't, Jordan was frightened and hurriedly assured, young Master Wei, don't worry, I will kidnap that Sonia today, but I need that Delia's help. How can she help you? Wei Tao was taken aback. Master Wei, let Delia call that Sonia and ask her to meet, saying that it is for David's business, then Sonia will definitely be fooled, and then we will be able to kidnap Sonia without knowing it. Jordan explained. Wei Tao looked at Delia next to him, and then said, okay, I'll send her over here. After Wei Tao delivered Delia, he left. He was not suitable to appear with Jordan. After all, it would be best if he didn't get involved in the kidnapping of Sonia. Give me the number of Sonia. Delia glanced at Jordan and said arrogantly.